All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ole Miss After Dark. We are recording this on Monday instead of Tuesday like we normally are, headed out Tuesday morning to go down to Walk-Ons in Ridgeland for Locked On Ole Miss's meet and greet with Stephen Willis. So we're going to make an appearance down there. If y'all are in the area, come on down, say hi, hang out for a little bit. I think Stephen's going to have some stuff to give away from College Corner and stuff like that too. So it'll be a good time. So if y'all are in the area, come on down, say hey, have a drink with us, whatever. Be a good time. So it starts at 7:00. Again, that's on that's at Walk-Ons in Ridgeland, Mississippi. So Hitch, how you doing today, bud?
Great, man. Great. Just a wonderful day in the world of Ole Miss sports. How are you doing today?
Pretty much the exact opposite. Yeah, not that great of a day in Ole Miss sports here on Tuesday this afternoon. We'll get into some of the stuff that's been happening over the last couple days here in a minute. I wanted to start the show out though. Today is the first official day of Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter this morning from both fan bases. I don't think they quite understand what they're getting themselves into, even though they've been told over and over again the last couple of years just how different it is here in the SEC. One of them was talking about how Texas and Oklahoma joining automatically knocks down programs like Tennessee and Ole Miss into a different tier of the conference. It knocks us down a rung, so to speak. I think they're going to find out when they get into this conference and they play these teams every single week, not only in football, but it's a really good basketball conference, really good baseball conference. Obviously won 5 straight national championships now. I just don't think they quite understand how good all these teams are across the board in all sports.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Especially I would say, especially Oklahoma fans probably don't have much room to talk. Texas, I guess you could say maybe they've been a national powerhouse in all 3 sports for as long as I've been alive, off and on, right? But I think you're right. At the same time, I don't want to lessen them coming into the SEC by continually beating them over the head with you don't know what you're getting into, because eventually what that does is that riles the fan base up and just makes them want to shoot at you more, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were talking about Oklahoma, they, make probably more so for them instead of Texas. But really, you look back at it, Oklahoma's been a much better football program over the last decade than Texas has. I think Texas has won 10-win season over the last 10 years, won Big 12 championship, something like that, or Big 12 championship appearance. They actually haven't been very good up until they hired Steve Sarkisian. Now, Sark, he'd been in the SEC with Alabama, obviously, knows this conference, knows what it takes to win. You can kind of see their roster take shape over the last couple of years since he's been there, starting to look more and more like an SEC team. And you saw that last year with the really good year that they had. They have a ton of players up front's where it makes the difference. That's where Sark has really been focused on these last couple of years. Done a really good job getting guys in on both sides of the line of scrimmage there in Texas, which is a reason that me, you, and a lot of other people think that Texas is going to come in. They're going to have a good year. They're a college football playoff contender. A lot of people expect them to make college football playoffs. So it's going to be interesting when they actually get in here, though, play out this grind week to week and kind of see how that ends up playing out. So welcome to the SEC, guys. Y'all are going to find out real quick, though, what it's all about here. You're not going to come in and start running things like you think you are. Obviously, 2 very proud programs going to end up having success here, whether it be off the jump or year or 2 down the road once they get a little more acclimated to it. But everything you've always heard about the SEC is true, and that's one thing I think you'll see Texas and Oklahoma fans start telling other people as the year goes on that, teams in the SEC, they're cocky for a reason.
So what's your prediction year 1 for Texas and Oklahoma?
When we did this a few weeks ago, I had Texas at 11-1. I think they played Georgia. I think that was the one game I had them losing. So I had them tying with Ole Miss at 11-1 in the conference, and I think I had Oklahoma at like 6-6, 2-6 in the conference, something like that. Their schedule is absolutely brutal. The schedule makers were a lot easier on Texas than they were Oklahoma for sure. Oklahoma has some absolutely brutal road games their first year in the conference, so I do feel a little bit bad for them.
It's the Matthew McConaughey factor, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly what it is. So, but again, we'll see how it ends up going for them once they end up getting into the league, and they'll find out what it's all about here real soon. We're going to switch gears, though. It's been an absolutely brutal few days for the Rebels on the baseball field, Hitch. We saw Andrew Fisher get into the portal on, what was that, Saturday? Is that when that came down? Friday, Saturday, whatever.
Just a couple
that was.
days, yeah. Few days.
Yeah. JT Quinn essentially announced right there after him, a few hours afterwards, I believe it was. And right before we hit the record button, Chase Parham reporting, he had put it on Twitter that Liam Doyle also intends to enter the transfer portal coming up as well. You look at this, Hitch, and you talk about a big blow to this baseball program. I don't know where we're going to get guys to fill all of these holes. Luke Chang, whatever his name is, from Illinois State, a shortstop, he committed. That was announced again right before we started recording here on a Monday afternoon. Shortstop from Illinois State, one career home run, doesn't have a lot of pop now. I will say the last couple of years he's battled injuries pretty much all year long. Last year he only had 51 at bats, did hit 370 something, whatever. But again, a lot of holes to fill. I'm not sure where we end up getting them all from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when Saunier left, I was just thinking about this when we were talking about the group chat. It's like when you heard the Saunier announcement, it was like if I'm thinking about it as like that game Jenga, right? I felt I felt a wiggle. Then JT Quinn felt not that I was shocked or surprised. I just felt like, oh, okay, that was unexpected. Then JT Quinn, the wiggle felt a little bit like heavier, but it was almost like, okay, well, I didn't not expect that either. And then when Fisher made the announcement, it was like the whole thing just not only failed, but like it just almost disappeared. Like he was the one guy. I saw somebody say this, and you never like to be in this position, but I mean, he was the one guy that we absolutely could not have transfer. And then with the news right before we hit the record button, it was like if there was a 1A who we couldn't have transfer and a 1B, right? It's Liam Doyle. It's tough news, but like you said, I don't know where we're going to find them, but we're going to have to find them somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we will be required to field a baseball team next year when this thing gets kicked off. So they've got a heck of a lot of work to do. Ended up bringing in another transfer guy. I can't remember his name right now, but he was a Friday night starter for St. Joseph's.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at him for a second. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about these guys more in depth once we look at him a little more. But I mean, his numbers don't look all that great with a high ERA. It looks like he's, probably gives up a little bit too much contact with what it was like 100 plus hits over 90 innings or something.
105 hits and 81 innings.
But on Twitter, he did have, 4 different pitches, his 4 pitches, fastball, changeup, cutter, curveball. And, the fastball has life. The curveball is pretty good from what you could see. It just, I don't know. It just looks like he's got strikeout stuff. He just maybe stays around the plate too much and gets hit hard. I don't know. We'll look into it later, like I said. But I mean, he was a Friday night guy. He could come in and fill that hole. The bigger hole that I'm worried about filling now is the giant 20 home run, 290, whatever, 60 RBI hole left at, third base hole left by Andrew Fisher.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where you go to fill that hole out. You're not going to you're more than likely not going to get one player to come in and give you the same production as Andrew Fisher is. I think, though, when you think about all this, it's starting to show a bigger problem more than anything, right? Because again, Fisher was a guy that came out and said he was going to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame any players for leaving. Okay, like you're not legally binded to this school, this team, anything like that. If you can get a better deal and something that's better for you as the player, fine, go get it, go chase your dreams, do whatever. Because nobody else in that program at that school is required to stay there either, right? They can move from year to year, school to school, whatever they want to do. But there has to start being some kind of structure to prevent stuff like this. Because at least with like coaches and administrators, stuff like that, there's buyouts and stuff like that if they were to leave, or if they were to get fired, there's obviously buyouts. We heard a lot about that after this year with Mike Bianco and his contract and a big buyout. It would take to buy him and the staff out too. So, but bottom line is none of that stuff is in place for the players. So I can't get upset at any of them for hitting the portal, going and finding somewhere else to play if it's a better opportunity for them. So, a lot of people have raised a lot of hell and said a lot of really mean things about these players for no reason that they more than likely don't even know and probably wouldn't even say to their face, quite frankly. That's what the internet's for, right? You can say it there and not have to say anything to anybody's face. But y'all won't hear me say anything like that about these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, you said it. Go get your bag. Go get your money, because as much as you think that people at that school care about you, they may, but they care about themselves first, right? And they're looking out for themselves, and then they'll look out for you. So, I mean, you got to look out for you in a lot of situations. Right. I'm not saying that's every situation, but a lot of situations. Now, what I find interesting is when you said it's maybe a symptom of a bigger problem. I knew where you were going with it. I knew what you were talking about. And just to paraphrase, I think what you're saying is the bigger problem is the NIL structure as a whole needs to be, fixed with adding some structure to it. And where my mind went with that, and I haven't seen anybody say this. And so if anybody has, I apologize. But where my mind went with, I wonder if there's a bigger problem is with Bianco. Are these players leaving because they didn't want him to come back, right? Like they're rebelling against the Bianco coming back news and saying, okay, well, we're not playing here anymore, we're leaving. I wonder if there's anything to that.
Yeah, and I have no idea. I don't know why. I don't know why Fisher, Quinn, Saunier, Doyle, all of these guys. I have no idea why any of them entered the transfer portal, whether it be NIL related, whether it be relationships with the current staff. I do find it interesting that all of our pitchers hung around long enough to see who we hired as a pitching coach, and now they're all hopping into the portal. I mean, that is a little concerning on the surface here. And you've still got guys like Mason Nichols, Riley Maddox, those guys that are still on the team that could go in the draft. If you don't get them back, you're looking at a completely new weekend rotation going into a make or break year. You've got a guy like Wes Mendez, a freshman that showed so much promise last year. He's still here. I almost wonder if other schools are looking at the state of our program and trying to take advantage of it, coming in, trying to poach these players and, get them to come play for them like that. It kind of has that feel to it a little bit right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does now that you mention it. And like, it wasn't 2-3 weeks ago, whenever we were talking about the Mangrum hire, I think both of us actually said the words, he's definitely not coming into a bare cupboard here in Oxford.
Yep.
And now it seems, well, he didn't come into a bare cupboard, but it seems like either he was reaching in and taking glasses out of the cupboard and throwing them on the floor, or the glasses were themselves jumping out. Like, I don't know which one
Yep.
it was,
I don't either.
but it sure feels that way. And I could be wrong, but
Yep.
I don't know. It just seemed odd, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, and so now the big question is who's going to fill in all these roles. Obviously, we don't have all of those answers. The portal does
Yeah.
close here in a few days, but so again, names to look out for. You need to hang on to Riley Maddox, Mason Nichols, Wes Mendez, Hudson Calhoun. Still hasn't given up a run in the summer. He's still continuing his incredible streak. It's obviously imperative to get those guys back. Find out what Xavier Rivas is going to do. What's going to happen with Hunter Elliott? Is he going to come back or go into the draft? A lot of names still to watch out for.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
It's sometime in July. No, sometime in July. I think like middle of July maybe, and then they have until August something to sign. They've really shortened that window up a good bit, which definitely helps. But yeah, a lot of holes to fill. I guess one good way of looking at it, if there is a good way of looking at it, I don't think this is going to end up mattering. But with all these guys going out, you should have a hell of a lot of NIL money to go replace them with in the portal, right? So maybe you're able to get in some guys, maybe shop some aisles that you didn't think you were going to be able to shop on when the whole transfer portal thing started, when these guys were still on the team. But yeah, again,
that's a positive way to look at it because you saw where
it's the only
Fisher
positive you can find out of it.
Well, yeah, but when you see the news that even Fisher re-upped, so even more of the money was going to be going to him than last year. I mean, I guess that could make the draft is the 14th to the 16th, by the way.
Okay, there you go. So,
but Luke Chain, McCausland, you talked about him for just a second. The thing, and I'm like you, right? I'm never going to say bad things about these kids, but because they're kids, and it's not like they're going out there and trying to mess up. Now, between me and you in a text message, I might say some things, but I don't. I'm just kidding, but here. It's not like they're trying to mess up. They're trying to make people mad. They're trying to do their best out there because they want to play at the next level. Right. But at the same time, I think that we have to be realistic about expectations. And when you look at his numbers, I'm not overly excited about him. Like, I hope that we bring him on the show and talk to him and I get excited about it, but it just, the thing that really scares me is that you didn't bring it up, but that 944 fielding percentage, right? That's a stat that I'd probably leave off my scouting report. I wouldn't have that one on there, but hopefully he comes in and has 1,000 fielding percentage. I hope the best for him, but time will tell.
So I think one of the other, and I haven't heard anything about this, so don't go around saying Derek said this is coming up and to keep your eye out for it. I think it would be very, very telling, though, with the state of the program, is if at some point you end up losing like Luke Hill to the portal as well. Just really your last really big piece that you have left on this offense, and he's kind of got to be feeling like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air gift, right? When Uncle Phil and everybody moves out and he's standing in the damn living room just looking around. He's about the only thing left there, and now you've got to build everything around him, assuming he even sticks around at this point. And right now, I wouldn't be comfortable saying anybody's coming back, just the way these things has unfolded over the last few days.
Right. Well, Furness, right? Furness and Udermark, you think. And Smithwick, right? If they come back, you have a core there. I don't think we talked about, and he announced, right? Trayson announced.
Yeah, Trayson announced.
Yeah, I don't know if we even brought him up yet. So he's transferring.
Yeah, that's right. We recorded last week before he had officially announced it. Yeah. So you're right.
Yeah,
since we had last talked,
he sent you a message.
The portal.
He sent you a message, and okay. But a lot of offense to. It feels weird to say that we've had four 4 pitchers, like 4 probably going to contribute pitchers, leave the program, it feels weird to say that, man, we still got a lot of offense to fill. I don't like that position. So, but yeah, maybe we can go out and the next couple of days and get some guys. Be on the lookout for some news, hopefully.
Yeah. There's an outfielder floating around out there that's rumored to be headed to Oxford. We'll see how.
There's a few guys from Texas A&M out there that I wouldn't mind.
Well, yeah, we're not getting any of them though. We're not getting any of them. Sounds like they're all.
You
going
think
back
they're all
college
going to
station.
Texas? No,
college. No, they're going back. They're going back to A&M.
No kidding. All of them? Laviolette.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
When did that news come out? Wow. Okay.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Whenever A&M hired Early, when they announced him as the head coach, it was kind of to keep that core together. So they brought him back. He's been an assistant there for the last couple of years. He was the hitting coach. Everybody loved him. So they hired him to try to keep everybody together. And it sounds like that's going to end up working, and they're all going to end up going back to Texas A&M. So yeah, they're having a lot better luck than the Rebels are on the hitting front as far as getting their guys back out of the portal. So, but yeah, that's kind of the state of Ole Miss baseball right now. It's a bleak outlook, but again, there's still the entire offseason left. We should have money just burning through our pockets. They need to go out and spend, get players in here, and try to field a respectable team, because this league is. Everybody talks about how good the SEC is in football, and it is really, really, really good. The best conference in America. SEC baseball is more dominant than SEC football is, though. You know what I mean? Like, at least you can have the conversation of, is the Big Ten as good as the SEC in football? You can't have that conversation with any other conference in America when it comes to baseball. It's SEC, and it's not close. I mean, you got to go way, way down before you get to the second best conference when it comes to baseball. And it's only getting harder with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Texas is obviously investing a lot into their program, getting Schlossnagel, big NIL numbers there in Austin as well. And Oklahoma, we played them in the national championship a couple years ago. They hosted a regional again this past year. So their baseball program's not going anywhere under Skip Johnson, who's done a hell of a job there as well. So it's only getting better. And as of right now, on July 1st at 4:00 in the afternoon, Ole Miss is only getting worse. So hopefully that can turn around very, very quickly.
Yeah, I hope so. For your sake, I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
Man, you sound so
this
down in the
kills
dumps.
me more than anything. I mean, I am. I mean, this kind of shit kills me, dude. I hate seeing Ole Miss baseball in this state. Absolutely hate it.
Well,
so,
me as much as anybody else.
I know. We'll go ahead and wrap up the baseball talk there. We will get into our final segment here off the rails. We thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about 5 quarterbacks, non-Ole Miss quarterbacks that we enjoyed watching. Not necessarily the best you've ever seen do this, but the most fun quarterbacks for you to watch that did not wear an Ole Miss jersey. Hitch, I'll let you kick this thing off. And I'm sure we're going to have at least one common one here because I think it's a free space and a universal one.
Man, this might be my favorite thing that we've ever talked about. Like, I love the aspect of it not being the best ever, like being my favorite to watch, because I have so many of those. And I can't wait to get your reaction to some of these names. But yes, I do think we'll have at least one of the same. So I've got an honorable mention. All right. So my honorable mention is Pat White. I absolutely loved watching Pat White play. And on top of that, he put up incredible numbers when you go look at him. He put up like 6,000 passing yards, 4,000 rushing yards, all kind of stuff. And he would be on Thursday nights playing when I was in college. And man, those West Virginia games were so fun to watch. And it was because he had the most fluid throwing action, and just I enjoyed watching him. So that out of the way.
Well, that and you had Steve Slayton in the backfield to go with him too.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was a whale of a time watching them run the read option up there in Morgantown.
I loved it. I watched it. I won so much money on West Virginia and overs back then.
Yeah.
Charlie Ward. All right.
Okay.
And so I can't pinpoint a reason why, except for when I was a kid, my aunt and uncle lived in Jacksonville. He was in the Navy. And I think that I just associated with him living in Florida and Florida State. That would be my team. I liked them. I don't know. But I learned, and he sent me some stuff about Charlie Ward, and he was basketball and football, dual sport. And, man, that's what I loved, was a guy that could do both of it. Because, Deion Sanders, right? That was our guy in Atlanta when we were kids. And if you could do both of them, I really – liked it. And so I would watch Florida State play anytime I could when Charlie Ward was playing. And even when he made it to the Knicks, I still felt some kind of strange connection to him playing basketball, weirdly enough. And he was always one of my favorite players. But, yeah, Charlie Ward. I bet you didn't hear that name today. I bet you didn't think you'd hear that name today.
No, really, I didn't. But I wasn't going to lead off with this name, but now I'm going to since you've already brought him up. Pat White was one of my five. I loved watching Pat White. Yes, absolutely. For all the reasons you mentioned, it was the Thursday night games in Morgantown, those Rich Rod teams with him and Steve Slayton, just absolute dynamite on a football field, man. I mean, it was fast-paced, never stop, go. And I'm trying to think of who that receiver was. They had a speedy receiver there as well.
They had
that he would just chuck it downfield to.
Well, they also had that kid that was so good coming out of high school, that Noel Devine kid that was like
Noel Devine. Yep.
Right there.
Yeah, you're right.
The kid that I think maybe the kid you're talking about is the one. Is that the kid that got drafted by the Rams? What was his name?
Tavon Alston. That's what I keep thinking.
Tavon Alston. That's who I'm thinking about too. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's wrong, then we're both wrong. So we both come up with the same player there. But yeah, Pat White was so much fun. You really never hadn't seen anything like that up to that point, right? Like I said, all the read options, the quarterback runs, but he could sling it too. I remember him getting drafted in the second round by the Miami Dolphins, and I was so pissed off because as much as I did like Pat White, I did not want him to be on the Miami Dolphins. But that was back when we were doing the Wildcat formation and all that with Tony. Right. Tony's, oh God, what was his last name? I can't remember, but anyway, that was the Chad Pennington years with Ronnie Brown. Chad Pennington actually finished second in the MVP voting that year, and we won the division. And he got second place by getting 3 first-place votes, and Peyton Manning got the other 27 by himself. So it was a landslide, but Chad Pennington still finished second in the MVP race. And then we tried moving on to Pat White after that. But yeah, Pat was one of my
just didn't translate back then. No. Today his game might play in the NFL, right?
Maybe
you've got a lot more.
He was just so much smaller,
he just couldn't do it. Yeah, he was fun though.
Yeah, so he was. Right. So all right, what's another one for you?
University of Kentucky, Jared Lorenzen.
Yep.
I loved him, man. I would watch Kentucky even if they weren't playing Ole Miss, just because I didn't know what this fat, out of shape, ridiculous rocket laser left arm was going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched him throw a pass one time as he's being drugged down and tackled. He threw it behind his head to his receiver, and his receiver caught it for a first down. Like he was like the Jason Williams of college football. The way he threw the ball. I loved watching him though.
Yeah. That was also on my list. Jared Lorenzen got to see him.
Really?
Yeah. Got to watch him in the vault. Mom got mad at me because I kept calling him fat and tackle the fat boy and stuff like that. But one of the greatest things about Jared Lorenzen is all the great nicknames he has. The round mound of touchdown and the Pillsbury throw boy. Those are grade A plus nicknames there.
And he's
like you said,
legitimately good, right? Like he was a
really good.
legitimately good quarterback.
He was
He could swing
so
it.
much more. He was so much more mobile than you thought he was just by looking at him. He could move around, particularly inside the pocket. He's really good inside the pocket, creating time for receivers to get open. And when he reared back and slung that thing, I mean, it was on a rope. He had such a good arm. Went and had a good NFL career, backing up Eli Manning there in New York. Got a little cup of coffee there. Got to play a little bit up in New York too. So just a really, really fun player to watch. Though he was actually tops on my list. It was the very first name I wrote down was Jared Lorenzen, and he's actually the reason that I came up with top 5 quarterbacks that you enjoyed watching. Is I come across like a 5-minute highlight video of his at Kentucky last week.
Oh, this is such a good topic. Yeah,
every second. Yeah,
I love it.
So Jared Lorenzen, that's the one that I thought me and you would both share. That's the one I was talking about.
All right. Here's another, I don't know, odd one for me, but I always thought he was a great quarterback, and I liked him so much because he was so good with the play action. David Green from Georgia, back on those teams with Mark Richt. I watched him so many times, play action, and then put the ball down by his side and start looking over to the line like he's getting the next play, right? And then all of a sudden he has a receiver come open and he brings it up and he hits him. He was so good with the play action. I think he played all 4 years at Georgia. Started like he was a starter all years, and he just seemed like he was there forever. And I don't know. He was so much fun to watch because he wasn't mobile. He was one of those guys that he had to be good with his feet. He had to be good with his eyes, and he had to be good with the play action. If not, he was going to get killed in the SEC. And he was very successful. But David Green, I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I forgot all about David Green. If I'm not mistaken, when his career ended, I think he was the SEC all-time leading passer at the time. It's since been broken since then. But I'm pretty sure when his career ended at Georgia, he at that time was the top passer in SEC history. So it is a good one.
Longevity.
My next guy here,
that's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, just year after year after year. Next guy I have down here. And it's not so much his playing style or anything like that, but I loved his interviews after the game. And I would watch Washington State games just as when a microphone got put in front of the mouths of Mike Leach and Gardner Minshew. I just, for whatever reason, was drawn to his personality and his goofy ass ways with that mustache and everything else. But he was a hell of a player too. Mississippi native, as we all know. I believe he played down in Brandon, if I'm not mistaken. Brandon High School, I think, is where he had come from. But I know it was somewhere here in the state of Mississippi. But obviously had a hell of a career out at Washington State with Mike Leach, and parlayed that into a really good NFL career so far, making a ton of money, been a starter here and there, and now a backup. But always loved his post-game interviews, though. He was just as nutty and crazy as Mike Leach was. And if they were ever standing side by side for an interview, you knew you were in for a good time there. So I'm gonna give Gardner Minshew a shout out here and put him on my list.
Yeah, I hear you. I wish I could say a lot about him, but I can't. I just go with what you say. I'm going to go to my next one. All right. I don't know if this guy made your list or not. This is a weird one. Not a weird one. I think he would make a lot of lists. But it's weird for me and you because I'm a little bit older than you are. And when I say that, you think just a couple of years. But, right, I was able to see this guy in his prime on Thursday nights at Virginia Tech, right? And Michael Vick in college was he is
unbelievable.
I didn't want to use that word, right? Like I wanted to use something, and I can't even think of one. But when you think of, so when I think of the most, the best college players that I've seen, right? I immediately think of Vince Young, Reggie Bush in that game. Right, the two maybe best college performances I've watched live, just off the top of my head, and Michael Vick was that, before those guys were. He was unbelievable at Virginia Tech, running around left-handed, He had the slickest throwing motion and could just fling it forever. There was a commercial. I don't know if you remember those commercials where he would throw those Nerf footballs. And but yeah, if you ever get a chance to go watch any Michael Vick highlights from he was in Virginia Tech, he was that dude. Yeah, go watch him.
Yeah. I definitely remember watching Michael Vick play those games, especially that one, like you were talking about, against Florida State in the national championship. He was, God, if he would have been 15 years later, something like that, get him in today's, especially college football, the way it's been going over these last 5-10 years.
He was different.
There ain't no telling what kind of numbers he would have put up. I mean, he was Pat White with the ball and Jay Cutler throwing it as far as arm strength goes, right? I mean, could literally throw it. And I think it goes to show how great he was, the fact that he was still able to have so much success in the NFL when nobody did that.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. Yeah,
Two times.
When you went to the Eagles too. Yeah, Falcons and Eagles. Nobody did it. There was nobody in the NFL that thought something like that could even work in that league. But he went in and he just straight dominated them.
The way he moved was just incredible.
Yeah, it was.
He was so shifty and so fast that nobody could catch him.
Yeah.
Who's your next one?
Well, I'll go ahead and talk about another guy that kind of plays off Michael Vick, what he would have looked like in today's college landscape. Lamar Jackson, when he was at Louisville, dude was an absolute highlight every time he caught the snap, right? The way he could run, how shifty he was. He was so smooth running the ball. Like, he's obviously very fast, but his stride is what he looked slower than what he really was. You wondered why nobody could get a hand on him. But just the stride that he had, how shifty he was. He was a lot of fun to watch. Obviously playing under Petrino in those offenses. Petrino is maybe one of the best in our generation of, it doesn't matter what your skill set is. He's always going to find something to match the playmaker he has on offense. And he went and found Lamar Jackson, and he did an incredible job for him. And again, kind of going to the NFL right after that, nobody thought Lamar Jackson would fit in the NFL because of his style in college. Ravens take a shot on him in the first round. And just like Michael Vick, it just kind of, worked out for him, right? Turns out that if you're really talented and you can really throw the ball and really run, you can play in the NFL no matter what. So, but Lamar was a hell of a lot of fun to watch during, especially his Heisman campaign year there at Louisville. So I had to put him on there.
Yeah, it's funny as we're talking about these. You keep talking about the players that you're picking, that their NFL career stuff, and I keep thinking, my guys that I'm picking, their game doesn't really translate to the NFL all that well every time, and I'm kind of figuring out a pattern, right? Like, I either like guys who can do both, like throw and run really well, or I like the guys who are just really big and fat and just are statues and can just throw it. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But so here's the one. Here's the one that I thought that we would have the same. And it was an easy choice to me. If we, and these were not in any order really, but if we were to order these, this would have been my number one favorite, maybe favorite college football player ever to watch, but certainly quarterback. It's Johnny Football, right? Johnny Manziel was. He was art on the football field. Even when he played against your team, you had to watch him and go, man, what you're doing is really impressive. And just to watch him so many times put that Texas A&M offense on his back and refused to be denied the end zone was incredible. And I love, just like your guy from Washington State that you were talking about, I love his interviews. I love Johnny Football's mannerisms. I love the way he talks. I love the way that he says, hey man, I'm making you all this money, pay me, right? If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to figure it out myself.
Mhm.
I can't say that I love everything about Johnny Manziel, but as a football player, I loved watching him, and I know that you did too. I'm curious if he's on your list.
That is the last name on my list, Johnny Football.
I knew
Yes.
it.
So we ended up agreeing on Manziel, Jared Lorenzen, and then I agreed with your honorable mention and Pat White.
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty close. But yeah, Johnny Manziel was absolutely one of my favorites to ever watch. Like you said, he just everything he did on the football field, he talked the most crap of anybody to ever step on a football. Like maybe on the field, but definitely when he got a microphone in front of his face, he was still going to talk it to you
sure.
and go and back it up after that too. I remember his freshman year. I guess that's when he ended up winning the Heisman his freshman year, right? That was his Heisman winning year. They came to Oxford, and there was only one other freshman on the field that was as good as Johnny Manziel, and his name was Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton spied him the entire game. Really kept Johnny Manziel in check. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up going downfield with the last drive, and they ended up beating us at the end or something like that, if I'm remembering it right. But
Yep.
yeah, just kind of like you said, though, everything that he could do, the way he could run the ball, how elusive he was. There was that play in the Alabama game where he fumbles it after somebody gets a hand on him, picks it up, shakes about 3 or 4 guys in the backfield, and then squirts out to the left side of the line there and takes it 15, 20 yards, whatever it was, for a touchdown for that huge win in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. You
So
said it.
he was.
I can't think of anybody else, and maybe you can. He is the most make something out of a busted play player I may have ever seen. Right? It was crazy.
It would be like him and Cam Newton. Cam Newton was obviously really good at it, but for completely different reasons. Cam Newton was this absolute giant back there.
Okay.
You know, Johnny was this,
no.
5'10", 5'11", 200-pound soaking wet guy, just making all the moves and could really throw it.
This is interesting, right? Because neither one of us had Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, or any of these guys, and like if I'm being honest, like I didn't like watching Tebow play. Like he was.
I didn't either.
He's hard to hate,
Percy Harvin.
Right, yeah, right. Well, Tim Tebow is hard to hate because he is, whatever his stances and beliefs are, like he is a genuine person that believes that. So, and he's never done anything bad that we know of, and so he's hard to not like. But I did not like watching him play. I think he has a very ugly throwing motion. That jump pass is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And he was just a bruiser. He wasn't elusive. He didn't move. He just ran over people. Same with Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton threw a prettier ball and looked more quarterback than Tim Tebow. But I didn't really, the guys to watch on that team, it really wasn't Cam Newton. He was probably the reason they won the national championship. But the fun guys to watch were those guys in the backfield, right? Those guys that were just hit that hole, the burst of speed. It's funny
Trey
that we
Mason
didn't mention either one
team,
of those. Trey Mason.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I probably would have had Bo Jackson on there if we were talking not quarterbacks, like just watching it, or not Bo Jackson, but like even Peyton Manning, right? I'm just thinking of like great SEC players. Peyton Manning, he's a little bit before the only thing when you say Peyton Manning college, oddly enough, the only thing I can think about is Clint Sterner putting it on the ground in the game against them. I think I can't tell you anything Peyton did in college really. So I never
got
watched
cheated
him.
out of a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know that. But was there anybody else that you thought of? Like, I don't know. Those are the big names.
Yeah, Cam was on my short list. I kind of thought about Matt Leinart for a second just because of how great he was, But again, it was who I enjoyed watching the most, not how great you were.
Right. And it's just
Actually,
that's the program out there, right? Who are you going to pick? Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Matt Barkley,
yeah,
Mark Sanchez. Okay,
yeah,
all of those guys could be the same person.
yeah. I actually thought about Jared Zabransky from
Okay,
Boise State. That was a name
I thought
that
about
crossed my
Kellen Moore.
mind.
I liked watching Kellen
Yeah,
Moore, from Boise play.
uh-huh.
He was fun. He had an ugly
Mm,
throwing motion, but I mean, he was fun to watch
yeah,
play.
yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
more of a fun program to watch as much as it was quarterbacks, though, right?
I even almost went with Brandon Whedon, um,
Oh wow,
but
yeah, Oklahoma State.
I didn't for the reason that you just said, right? It was so much more about watching that Oklahoma State offense flying around
Yeah,
than I
fun
think
and
it was
gun.
Brand.
Yeah,
I don't think it was so much Brandon Whedon watching him play. I think it was the offense in general.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
So
It was a fun exercise. It was fun thinking about
yeah, it
all of these
was.
guys and
Yeah,
all these names. Again, names I hadn't seen in
yeah,
so long.
kind of.
Oh, Achilles Smith popped
Oh
up,
yeah.
and I was like, man, I haven't thought about Achilles Smith in ages.
Yeah, yeah, me either. So, but yeah, it was fun going down memory lane with some of these names, and then other ones that were a little more recent. Johnny Football, guys like that, Gardner
Yeah,
Minshew,
for sure.
Lamar Jackson. But yeah, the Michael
Marcus
Vicks
Mariota,
and
that's another one.
yeah,
Marcus Mariota is
yeah,
one
I thought
I
about
thought about.
him.
I really like watching him at Oregon. He was fun.
I actually thought about Dennis Dixon too, kind of sticking with the Oregon theme there. Dixon was a lot of fun because of how athletic and fast he was as well. So, but again, I think that's more of a program style of
Hmm.
play type thing more than anything, though. So, but yeah, it was a fun exercise thinking of all these guys and kind of talking about them. But we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Remember, if y'all are in the Jackson Ridgeland area, y'all come on up to Walk-Ons at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. Hang out with us for a little bit and say hi. It'd be nice to see, you know, some of our listeners, some of the Locked On listeners, a little bit of a crossover
What
from
quarterbacks did you like watching when you were kids and children's?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead and throw that down in the comments too, and maybe if some of them grab our eye, maybe me and Hitch will kind of go back
We'll
down that
dress up.
road next
We'll
week.
dress up like them. If they cross our eyes, we'll dress up and play like them.
Okay.
He
Hitch will
will.
do that. I will keep running the
He
show
will.
over here. Maybe we can get Chad to do some of that. Hell, he needs to start doing something.
Ooh, he should. Well, more than he's doing.
You know, that's
Yeah, he
right.
needs to do
So,
more than he's
all right,
doing. That's
y'all.
for sure.
No doubt. But all right, I appreciate it, everybody tuning in once again, and we'll be back to our regular schedule next week on a Tuesday, and we will talk to all of y'all then. Hitch, been a pleasure, buddy. All right, Toddy.